عَلَّمَ الْإِنسَانَ مَا لَمْ يَعْلَمْ. He taught man what he knew not. Mentioned in this verse is another aspect of the divine favor alluded to in the previous verse, and that is, the unlettered Arabs were not only bestowed with divine guidance in written form, they were further blessed with teachings they were not aware of. Though a general word al-insan or man is used in this verse, however, since the first addressees of the Qur'an were the unlettered Arabs, therefore this word is primarily spoken for them. It was a special favor of the Almighty that He led them out of the darkness of ignorance by revealing to them His complete guidance. It is now their obligation to value and honor it. In Surah Jumu'ah, this aspect is discussed in the following words. هُوَ الَّذِي بَعَثَ فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَإِنْ كَانُوا مِنْ قَبْلُ لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. It is He who has sent forth among the unlettered a prophet from among themselves. He recites to them His revelations and purifies them and instructs them in the book and in wisdom, though before this they had been in manifest error. Surah number 62, verse 2. With slight difference in style, this aspect is also discussed in verses 151 and 198 of Surah Baqarah and verse 164 of Surah Al Imran, and we have already fully explained it. Just as this verse bestows a favor on the Quraysh, it also warns them that if they do not value and respect the greatest favor of God, they should then contemplate what fate they will meet for their ingratitude and arrogance. كَلَّا إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَيَطْغَى أَن رَّآهُ اسْتَغْنَى. Certainly not. Indeed, man is being rebellious, considering himself to be self-sufficient. This verse depicts the behavior of the Arabs, which they adopted with this guidance of God. Instead of duly honoring it, they were rejecting it out of sheer arrogance. The reason for this is that their wealth and resources have made them indifferent to God. This verse begins with the emphatic negative particle, kalla, or certainly not. It is meant to negate the excuses the Quraysh would make in rejecting the Qur'an and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These excuses, fabricated by them, are meant to cover up the reality. The real reason for their rejection was considering themselves self-sufficient from God and their love for this world. However, they would pretend as if they had certain objections for which they were not receiving satisfactory answers. Inna ila rabbika ruj'a. Indeed, to his Lord is the return. The word ruj'a is a verbal noun similar to bushra and means to return. The implication is that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ should let them do what they are doing. Finally, they will have to return to their Lord, to whom they have become indifferent and fearless. At that time, they will come to know the fate of their arrogance. If they think that their alleged deities will be their saviors and lords, then they will come to know how baseless their view is. On that day, only God will reign supreme, and no one else will be able to save a person from his grasp. أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يَنْهَى عَبْدًا إِذَا صَلَّى. Just look at him who forbids a servant when he prays. Mentioned in this verse is an example of the rebellious attitude referred to earlier. The hard hearts among the Quraysh are alluded to here, who would stop the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and other Muslims from praying. The foremost obligation of a person towards his Lord is serving and worshipping Him, and the foremost manifestation of worship is the prayer. Thus a person in praying is discharging his foremost obligation towards his Lord and is worthy of being shown respect for this deed. He should be regarded as someone worth following in this matter. If someone is audacious enough to stop him in this regard, then this would mean that he is stopping someone from discharging his foremost obligation towards God. We have explained at various places in this tafsir that the style ara'aita is used to direct the attention of people to something very inappropriate or to criticize someone. Expressions such as, just look at him, or have you seen him, or take a look at what he's doing are its equivalents in the English language. It is not necessary that a specific person be considered to be implied by the word alladhi. It can be used to portray people who indulge in such unworthy activity. We have already explained this style in this tafsir. It was not Abu Jahl only who would stop the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ from praying. There were other ruffians besides him too who would do so, and these ruffians would not stop the Prophet only from praying. They would stop other servants of God also from praying. أَرَأَيْتَ إِنْ كَانَ عَلَى الْهُدَى أَوْ أَمَرَ بِالتَّقْوَى. Just consider if this person is rightly guided or urges others to virtue. The implication is that before taking this foolish step, the person should have thought that in his frenzy against Islam, he should not have become so overcome as to not even contemplate the fate that he will meet. Is not there a chance that this servant of God is on the right path and with his words and deeds calls others to piety and virtue? While disregarding this possibility, this person would then be merely inviting the wrath of God. In other words, on what basis does he regard this frenzied step of his to be correct, a step which can only be taken by Satan? أَرَأَيْتَ إِنْ كَذَّبَ وَتَوَلَّى. Just see if this person denied and turned away. This is a reference to the second possibility we have referred to above. That is, what if this person was the one who denied and who turned away? Then, the implication is that in this case, it would be he who would be responsible for opening the door to hell. Here, an ellipsis of the oral apodosis has occurred to point to the fact that its severity is beyond words, a common style of classical Arabic. An example of such an ellipsis can also be seen in Surah Yunus. The fate of people who reject the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and turn away from him and turn away from his call is mentioned thus in Surah Al-Layl. لا يصلاها إلا الأشقى الذي كذب وتولى. Only those wretched creatures shall enter hell who denied and turned away. Surah number 92, verses 15 and 16. أَلَمْ يَعْلَمْ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ يَرَى. The implication of this verse is that does such a person not realize that the Almighty is watching all his unrestrained behavior? Now, if God is watching, and surely He is, then He will definitely take its revenge. He is just, merciful, powerful, and has a great sense of honor. If His servants are stopped from worshipping Him, how can He tolerate this as a bystander? كَلَّا لَإِن لَّمْ يَنْتَهِ لَنَسْفَعًا بِالنَّاصِيَةِ. Certainly not. If he does not desist, we shall drag him by the forelock. This verse sounds a severe warning to such arrogant people. The word nasiya refers to the forehead and the hair scattered over it. The word safara means to drag something by grabbing it in the fist. In Surah Rahman, the fate of such people is mentioned thus: فَيُؤْخَذُ بِالنَّوَاصِي وَالْأَقْدَامِ. Or, then they shall be grasped by their forelocks and legs and thrown in hell. Surah number 55, verse 41. Nasiyatin kazibatin khati'a. A lying, sinful forelock. The word nasiya is a permutative or badal of the an-nasiya of the previous verse. Though the former is not defined by the article alif lam and the latter is, yet such a grammatical interpretation is possible because the nasiya of this verse is defined by an adjective, and such a noun can technically be regarded as a permutative or badal of a noun defined by the article alif lam. The anger and rage which seems to be exuding from every word of this verse is worth noting. The forelocks of such ruffians are mentioned in very harsh words. The face and the forehead is the most honorable part of the body, and for this reason at times signifies the whole personality of a person, as is the case here. Also, the greatest honor for a forehead is the mark of prostration that becomes stamped on it. If a person is so callous that not only he himself does not prostrate before God, but also stops others from prostrating before Him, then such a wretched person is worthy of being grabbed by the forelock and thrown into hell. فَلْيَدْعُ نَادِيَ سَنَدْعُ الزَّبَانِيَ. Then let him call his faction, we shall summon our guards. This is a challenge thrown to these arrogant people. If they are big-headed about their power, then they should call all their allies, and the Almighty will call His guards and see how much power they have. The first practical test of this challenge in the later period was in the battlefield of Badr, and the world witnessed that the whole power and collectivity of the Quraysh was humiliated at the hands of the Almighty's guards. The real meaning of the word Nadi is a gathering or a society. Here, in this verse, it refers to individuals who are associated together in some communal relationship. Keeping in view the context, it can be translated as group and party. The word Zabaniya is the plural of Zabniya, and its real meaning is defender. However, it is also used for policemen and law-enforcing personnel. It has been translated as guards, keeping in view the context. In other words, this is a divine task force of angels which is sent for special missions which are temporary in nature. كَلَّا لَا تُطِعْهُ وَاسْجُدْ وَاقْتَرِبْ. Certainly not, do not obey him, and bow down in prostration and draw near. These words sound assurance to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that if someone is stopping him from prostrating before God, he should just ignore him and draw nearer the Almighty by prostrating before him. It should be kept in mind that at many places the Qur'an has regarded the prayer as the key to perseverance and resolve and to earning God's help. The most grand component of the prayer is prostration. This is an allusion to the fact that who would dare stop the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ from something which is the objective of his life and the sole means of his relationship with God? If anyone does dare do such a thing, he should seek refuge with the Almighty. The only way to do this is to prostrate before him. Period of revelation of the surah. This brings us to the end of the explanation of this surah. Let us now deliberate on its period of revelation by analyzing its contents. The most helpful thing in determining the period of revelation of a surah is to deliberate on its tone, address, and style of address. For this very reason, I have raised this question at the end of the explanation instead of discussing it in the introductory part of the surah. Readers can form an opinion for themselves on this issue, about which our exegetes have different opinions. The most famous opinion on the period of revelation of this surah is that it is the first revealed surah of the Qur'an. Some people regard the whole surah as the first revelation of the Qur'an, but the majority regards its first 5 verses to be the first revelation of the Qur'an. This latter opinion is based on a narrative in Bukhari and Muslim. The second opinion is that of Az-Zamakhshari. He has recorded in his tafsir, وَأَكْثَرُ الْمُفَسِّرِينَ عَلَىٰ أَنَّ الْفَاتِحَةَ أَوَّلُ مَنْ نَزَلَ ثُمَّ سُورَ الْقَلَمِ. Or, and most exegetes are of the view that Surah Fatiha was revealed the foremost and then Surah Al-Qalam. Zamakhshari, Al-Kashaf, Volume 4, page 784. Some exegetes have differed with this opinion and some have accepted it. A third opinion on this issue is that Surah Muddassir was revealed the foremost. The proponents of this view most probably regard its initial verses only as the first revelation because the tone of the rest of the surah and its style of address is so stern and severe like Surah Alaq that it is very difficult to regard the whole surah as the first revelation. In my opinion, Surah Alaq is a harmonious whole and a single well-knit unit. The tone of its first 5 verses is no different from that of the rest of the surah. Such is the severity in its style of address that one fails to understand that why should such a surah be regarded as the first revelation. Moreover, there is no indication within the surah to regard it to have been revealed in 2 episodes. هذا ما عندي والعلم عند الله وعلمه أحكم وأتم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. This is my opinion, and true knowledge rests with God, and His knowledge is the most sound and the most complete, and our last words are, gratitude be to Him. Lahore, 4th March, 1980 AD, 16th Rabiul Thani, 1400 AH.